Imagine this. You're wounded. Bleeding. Your ship has been destroyed. Your crewmates are gone. You wash up on an island controlled entirely by enemy forces. And to make matters worse, they think you're already dead. Your family back home has been notified. They've held your funeral. The military has written you off. But you're not dead. You're stranded behind enemy lines with nothing but a bayonet, a handful of grenades taken from a dead enemy soldier, and a will to survive that would become legendary. This is the true story of Lieutenant Hugh Barr Miller Jr., a U.S. naval officer who single-handedly fought the Japanese Imperial Army for weeks in the South Pacific during World War II. They called him the Navy's one-man army. And today, you're about to discover why. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we dive deep into incredible true stories from history that sound too extraordinary to be real, but are verified and documented. And this story? This might be the most incredible survival story you've ever heard. So buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's jump into one of the most remarkable tales of courage and survival from World War II. Before Hugh Barr Miller Jr. became a one-man army, he was just another American kid with big dreams. Born on January 10, 1910, in Alabama, Miller grew up in an era when America was recovering from World War I and building towards something bigger. But unlike most kids, Miller had something special: exceptional athletic ability and natural leadership. At the University of Alabama, Miller didn't just attend classes. He became the quarterback for the legendary Crimson Tide football team. We're talking about one of the most prestigious college football programs in America. In 1930, Miller started 2 games as quarterback, and even though he didn't play in the actual game, his team went to the Rose Bowl in 1931. That's where he earned his nickname on the ship years later, Rose Bowl Miller. But Miller wasn't just a jock. He had discipline, strategy, and an ability to stay calm under pressure, qualities that would later save his life in ways no one could have imagined. After graduating, Miller pursued a career in the military, joining the U.S. Navy. By the time World War II erupted, Miller was a commissioned officer, ready to serve his country. Now, let's set the stage. It's 1943. The Pacific theater of World War II is in full swing. American forces are island-hopping across the Pacific, fighting brutal battles against the Japanese Imperial Army. The Japanese are fierce, disciplined, and willing to fight to the death for every inch of territory. The Solomon Islands became one of the most contested areas of the entire war. These islands weren't just strategic. They were vital. Control of the Solomon Islands meant control of shipping lanes, air bases, and access to Australia. The battles here were some of the bloodiest and most intense of the entire Pacific campaign. And this is where Lieutenant Hugh Miller found himself in August 1943, serving aboard a U.S. Navy vessel in the middle of one of the most dangerous war zones on Earth. Miller was not a frontline combat soldier in the traditional sense. He was a naval officer, which meant his battles were supposed to be at sea. But fate had very different plans. August 1943. The waters around the Solomon Islands are a death trap. Japanese submarines, destroyers, and aircraft patrol constantly. And on one fateful day, Lieutenant Hugh Miller's ship encountered disaster. The details are as dramatic as they are horrifying. Miller's vessel came under heavy attack. The result was catastrophic. The ship was hit, critically damaged, and began to sink. Chaos erupted. Men scrambled for lifeboats, life jackets, anything that could keep them afloat. Explosions ripped through the hull. Fire spread rapidly. Miller and several crewmates abandoned ship. They jumped into the turbulent Pacific waters, swimming desperately away from the sinking wreckage. In the chaos of war, Miller was separated from most of his crew. He didn't know if anyone else had survived. He didn't know where he was. He only knew he had to keep swimming. 3 days later, Miller washed ashore on Arundel Island, along with 3 other shipmates. But in 1943, it was enemy-occupied territory. The Japanese had forces stationed throughout the island. They would kill any American on sight. The men were exhausted, dehydrated, starving, and many were injured. Miller himself was severely wounded. His wounds were bad. Life-threateningly bad. He believed he was dying. The four men hid in the dense jungle, trying to avoid detection. They had no weapons, no supplies, no way to contact friendly forces. After several days, Miller made a decision. Looking at his wounds, barely able to move, he told his 3 shipmates to take his boots and knife and leave him behind. He told them he would only slow them down. They were never heard from again. Days passed. Miller lay in the jungle, drifting in and out of consciousness. By every logical measure, Hugh Miller should have died on that island. But then he said later, "I thought I was dying, but then I rallied." Somehow, Miller's body began to recover. His strength returned. And with it came the will to survive. He survived on whatever he could find. Every sound made him freeze. Every patrol nearby could mean death. Then one day, a body washed ashore. A Japanese soldier. Miller searched it and found hand grenades and a bayonet. In that moment, Miller went from wounded survivor to armed combatant behind enemy lines. And he decided to fight. Miller began conducting a one-man guerrilla war. He ambushed patrols. He used grenades with deadly accuracy. He struck then vanished into the jungle. He destroyed machine gun nests alone. The Japanese forces were terrified. Patrols were being ambushed. Positions destroyed. And no one could figure out who was responsible. For weeks, Miller continued his solitary war. Estimates range from several weeks to potentially over a month. He killed over 20 Japanese soldiers single-handedly. Miller became a ghost in the jungle. He learned every path, every hiding spot. He predicted patrol routes. He turned the entire island into his battlefield. But the mental toll was immense. Every moment awake was fear. Sleep was brief. Isolation was crushing. Yet Miller persisted. His grenades were running low. His body weakening. Disease setting in. But he kept going. And then finally, rescue came. Allied forces eventually retook Arundel Island. Miller was discovered alive, after being declared dead, after his funeral had already been held. He was evacuated and treated. His story astonished everyone who heard it. His story entered military lore, books, and historical records. Miller's story stands out for its duration, isolation, and level of combat activity. Many soldiers have survived behind enemy lines, but few fought alone for weeks, killing over 20 enemy soldiers using only grenades and a bayonet. Miller carried the guilt of sending his comrades away. He bore physical and psychological scars for life. He lived until June 21, 1978, over 3 decades longer than anyone expected. Miller's story teaches us the resilience of the human spirit. He chose to fight when all logic said he should die. It shows that the greatest heroes aren't always the most famous ones. It shows the power of purpose. Purpose kept him alive. History is filled with incredible stories we've never heard. Miller's nearly became one of them. If you found this story incredible, share this video. Tell someone about Lieutenant Hugh Miller. His story deserves to be remembered. Before you go, what would you have done in Miller's position? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Hit subscribe for more deep dives into incredible military history. History isn't just about dates and battles. It's about people. People like Hugh Miller who did extraordinary things in impossible situations. I'll see you in the next video.